this.
confused.
If you were on the
That's
Abby
word
Phillips
count.
show Chinese version, you wouldn't be
But
here
I'm not the
tomorrow.
Chinese version.
You're
I'm
in
here at the
America.
American
You get to
version.
say
All
these
The
things.
black. I know,
You
and I'm
should enjoy
saying
your
it,
freedoms.
and I'm saying it, and I'm enjoying it, and I
proud
fought
that
for
you can
mine
say that.
and yours. So thank me for my service.
All right.
Raised his
Wait a
hand to say
second.
I'm willing to die for this country. Let's stop talking about just the down. Not only was I willing to die for this country, both of my grandparents
Thank you
were.
for your service.
That's right. Thank me for my service.
Well, where
and
do you
really
want
get
to
some
move to?
understanding. It's not about me. I'm not going nowhere. I'm staying right here. You don't need to give me no visa to China.
Kevin, I think the question here would be,
like North
guys,
Korea?
we don't have a ton of time in this segment. Go
How
ahead.
about that?
I think
So for you to sit here and act like you just didn't say, what country are you talking about? What country, puts people in jail wrong? What country enslaves folks, which is pretty much the private prison system? What country does this? You can't possibly be a history buff and also say that as well.
So in this clip, we're going to see Tezlyn Figaro check Kevin O'Leary on Americans' racism. The geezer had the audacity to try and tell her about going to North Korea, to China, and we're going to see her clap back and shut him down in the exact manner that it is that she should. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I may give my perspective throughout, but I'm going to mainly save it towards the end. Let's get into it.
Tonight, a federal judge is ordering the Trump administration to restore exhibits about slavery in Philadelphia. Invoking George Orwell's novel 1984, Judge Cynthia Roof accused the government of disassembling historical truths. Last month, the Park Service removed explanatory plaques from the brick walls of the Philadelphia home where George and Martha Washington lived. Those plaques included biographical details about the 9 people enslaved by the Washingtons at the presidential mansion and a historical timeline of American slavery. It's fitting, we were just talking about George Washington setting an example by leaving the presidency, but the truth is also that George Washington was an enslaver. And trying to erase that, or even having an executive order that could be interpreted as allowing for that, that is, I think, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, you can't erase history, unfortunately. Can't do it. And so it becomes part of the DNA of the country, and it's well known, and it's not going to be changed. I don't know the specifics of why they would tear this off a wall, whether that was a federal building or a private building or whatever. But every country has a conscience. Every country has horrific stories of its creation, the violence of it. But you should learn from the past. I mean, I'm a history buff. I go back and look at, I try and learn from, pre-First World War in terms of how Europe looks today. And I really enjoy that work, but I realize there's nobody that's perfect. Wow. It was a very violent society. Was violent from 2,500 years ago.
It's so interesting that you said that, because right before we went to break, you asked me what country was I living in. This one that we just went through.
You should be happy to live here.
The country that just did what they did. So for you to sit here and act like you just didn't say, what country are you talking about? What country, puts people in jail wrong? What country enslaves folks, which is pretty much the private prison system? What country does this? You can't possibly be a history buff and also say that as well.
Let me give you how bad it can be. The Romans used to burn to the ground.
You can't never give me how bad it could be. You could never give me how bad it could be. I live it on a daily basis, baby. I live it on a daily basis, honey.
They were bad dudes.
I live it on a daily basis. You can never tell me how bad it could be. But I would encourage you to actually be the history buff that you claim that you are, and really get some understanding. It's not about me. I'm not going nowhere. I'm staying right here. You don't need to give me no visa to China.
Kevin, I think the question here would be, guys, we don't have a ton of time in this segment. Go ahead.
That?
I think the question here is, does this administration want to erase history? Do they prefer a different version of history where white people look better and white people didn't have slaves? They're changing education. They're taking out Black history in a lot of states that they control. They are changing the history of places.
Oh yeah, you're doing a good job.
But that's the thing. I think Steve Bannon himself said history is written by the winners. I think right now they're the winners and they're trying to rewrite history.
The answer to your question is yes. This administration is trying to erase this history. Yes. They say so in their briefs. They say we don't want to present a picture of history at this spot in Philly that's going to be upsetting to people. We want a nice, clean version of American history. I agree.
Is it a federal building?
Yes. It's under contract with the Department of the Interior. There's a deal in place between the city of Philadelphia and the federal government that makes it a historical building. That's actually the legal basis that this judge, which I should add is a Bush nominee, this judge said you're wrong. You don't have the right to wipe this out through an executive order. So yes, they're trying to erase history, the wrong historically, the wrong legally.
And it's not the only place. The Park Service removed a photo of an enslaved man's scars. Trump said the Smithsonian focuses too much on how bad slavery was. And park employees are supposed to be flagging material that are deemed disparaging to the U.S. What are they so afraid of?
Yeah, I don't think we should erase history. To Kevin's point, we can't erase history. And those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. So obviously we need to acknowledge that this was a shameful chapter in American history. And I think, I don't know anybody who doesn't want to acknowledge that and acknowledge that that was a terrible, horrible chapter. I think it's interesting, though. I look at universities and some of these people are so educated and they don't have a love for America. And so I think I would love to see, in addition to acknowledging terrible moments in history, I'd also love to see the fact celebrated that America is really the only civilization that's ended slavery. And so I think we need to have both elements there.
Do you think I love America?
I'm sure you do.
No, I mean, do you? As a military veteran,
Of
I'm a
course.
veteran, do you think I love America?
Of
and do
course.
you also think that erasing what actually happened to my ancestors that actually fought for this
I
country
don't think
when they
it should
couldn't
be
even sit at land?
erased.
But it's not just about trying to erase it. It's about actually acknowledging and doing something about it. It's one thing for me to acknowledge something, and there's something else to sit here and act like there's nothing that needs to be corrected. This lovely gentleman sat right here and tried to erase it, literally sitting next to me, literally. So
you live in a country where you could
even
point
doing
out
the,
these
and
wrongs,
even
and they are
and
your-
even doing the comparison, saying, would you rather go to China or not go to China? Are you a veteran? So that means you never raised the pause means no. So that means he never raised his
Wait a
hand to say,
second.
I'm willing to die for this country. Let's stop talking about just the Dow. Not only was I willing to die for this country, both of my grandparents
Thank you
were.
for your service.
That's right. Thank me for my service. So how dare he
I
sit here
thank
and
you for
ask
your
me?
service.
So how dare
And
he
I-
sit here
I
and
feel
ask me
proud
would
that
I
you're
rather
able
be
to
in China
raise
when
these
I was willing to
topics.
die for the country that is locking up the people that we're talking about? There are more black men enslaved than those who were enslaved in 1850 in the prison system right now in 1850 that did not actually get the due process that you guys are talking about, that actually had to take plea bargains because they could not afford adequate law attorneys, which is why I'm in law school, by the way, right now. Shout out to FAMU. So to sit here and ask me, what country do I live
Let me
in?
point
It's
something
called
out to
America.
you.
You can't point
Okay.
nothing out.
I do.
That's
I
what
want
you
to
keep
say
getting
this.
confused.
If you were on the
Last
Abby
word,
Phillips
Well, I
show
don't wanna hear
Chinese
it.
version, you wouldn't be
But
here
I'm not the
tomorrow.
Chinese version.
You're
I'm
in
here at the
America. You
American
get to say
version.
these
The
things.
black. I know,
You
and I'm
should
saying
enjoy your
it,
freedoms.
and I'm saying it, and I'm enjoying
I'm
it, and I
proud
fought
that you
for
can
mine
say that.
and yours.
All
So
right.
thank me for
I
my
wouldn't
service.
All right, my
disparage
friends,
this
listen.
Thank me
country
for
at
my
all, if I were
service.
you.
I'm not
I-
disparaging. I just want you to thank me for
We're
my
going to bring
service.
this to a close. I mean, I do think it is worth acknowledging that you don't have to prefer China to say that I want to be able to, in this country,
I just
both
point out,
live in the
I'm
country
so-
and
we're
critique
so
it at
lucky
the
to
same
have
time.
these freedoms
Sure.
and be able. I thank
Yeah,
you for your service,
I
by
know.
the
That's.
way.
I think that she's actually saying the same thing. That she's expressing her right to criticize, to acknowledge the past and how
My
bad
point
or
is
how good it
every
was.
time
So
somebody
I don't know that you guys
disparages
are
a
all that.
democracy,
I don't
say,
know that you
"Where do
guys are all
wanna
that
move
far.
to?"
But nobody
Where do you
disparages
wanna go to?
democracy.
All
And I
right.
answered your question,
All
and you
right.
still didn't deal with
Thank
the
you,
issue
guys.
at hand.
Hey,
Next-
listen, I didn't serve.
Next for
but
us.
I'm
So then
proud
you
to
should
tell-
be
The
quiet.
panel is going
No,
to
I
give
should
us
say
their
thank you for your
nightcaps.
Honestly, the like and the ilk of a Kevin O'Leary really just irks my soul. Like to not understand why what he said was disrespectful is just so dumb. You know, we like in the West we have democracies. You know, UK, we have a democracy. The US, you have a democracy. Just because of the fact that you live within one, that doesn't mean that you don't have the right to be able to criticize it. And then the audacity of Kevin O'Leary to turn around and say something along the lines of, you know, where do you want to move to? What? To a veteran as well. Like, look, I want to talk more about the main point that was at hand. And I remember when I saw the reports that Donald Trump had ordered for things that related to the history of slavery within the United States to be removed. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I just wasn't shocked and I just wasn't surprised. I just wasn't shocked and I wasn't surprised in any way, shape or form, because it's almost like in America, when it comes to the issue and the topic of slavery, it's almost like people are basically saying, in other words, listen, yes, we acknowledge it, but like, let's just move on. It's almost like that's how it is. But when there's other historically massive things that happened to other communities that were wrong, that narrative could never ever be provided. And we know the reasons as to why, but they never ever could be. But when it comes to racism and slavery towards black community, the black community, African Americans, it's always a kind of a thing of move on. Yeah, you know, we can't get rid of the history, but there's always a but. Even that Lydia Moynihan, whatever she said, she turned around and she said, yes, you know, we can't get rid of our history, but we also want to see the fact that, you know, America was one of the one nations to abolish slavery. What a ridiculous statement! What a ridiculous comment! What should America be celebrated because of the fact that it ended something it shouldn't have done in the first place? That's absolutely ridiculous. The reason as to why people like Donald Trump and his ilk, his kind, they want to remove the history of slavery from the United States is because of the fact that it is that they just want America to be put in a positive light and a positive light only. And that is not the way that it is that you stop things like that repeating itself. You see, when you go to Germany, you don't see their negative history kind of brushed under the carpet. You don't see it where people are trying to hide it. You don't see that. What they do is they acknowledge what was done wrong. They let their children know the history of what was done wrong. And then they educate and teach their children that something like this can never, ever happen again. And that is what should be done when it comes to the enslavement of black people and the history that has that connected with the United States. The exact same thing right here in the United Kingdom, because if things go the way that they're going at the moment with Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, or now this new Restore Party that's on the way, I can guarantee that they are going to be trying to do the exact same things that Donald Trump and this administration have been able to do within the United States. But let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange between Tezlyn Figaro and Kevin O'Leary down in the comment section below. While you guys are down there, as usual, do me a favor, just hit the thumbs up button purely for the YouTube algorithm. And also then lastly, just hit the subscribe button if you're interested in a perspective from somebody who lives over the pond, who's on the outside looking in. Just hit that subscribe button and join the family. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next clip.